Yep. I like watching dumb movies. Sometimes, those dumb movies aren't very good. My coworker thought that I was going to like this movie. So he handed it to me, told me I could, borrow his DVD. So I watched Big Man Japan. And I don't like mockumentaries. So it was set up to be a documentary following this guy who was the current big man Japan. So there were basically it's a defense force for Japan where they electrocute a guy to grow into a massive giant to fight kaiju. And the guy who is the current big man Japan is super depressed because his life is falling apart. And he gets no respect for what he does. And, you know, it seemed like they had some ideas that could have made a good movie, but it was boring and it was extremely slow. In fact, I watched the movie on 1.5 speed for most of the time. And even the kaiju fights were not that great. It was early 2000s CG. And he fought some relatively weird, more like yokai style monsters. And the fights weren't very good. The story wasn't very good. The music wasn't very good. And the acting was slow and drawn out. And it wasn't funny, even though it was marked as a comedy. So he fights these different monsters. You get his backstory. He's split up from his wife and kid, and he's depressed. His grandfather, who used to be a big man Japan, has dementia, and occasionally makes himself turn big. So they have to electrocute themselves in order to grow super large. And as it goes along, eventually there's one kaiju that Big Man Japan himself can't beat. He runs away. Then everybody starts hating on him. Then the next couple of monsters he fights, the way he handles it doesn't work good. And the news comes out against him. And then I don't know if the final battle with the Red Oni demon, which is the one that beat him up and he ran away from. I'm not sure if the Red Oni killed him or if they decided that they were going to try to save on the budget at the end by doing an Ultraman ripoff, because then you had like Justice Father, Justice Mother, Justice Sister, and Justice Man or something like that. They pop down and they fight the Red Oni, but then at that point it's Suitmation rather than CG. And that was the only part that kind of made me chuckle, because that very much was something that popped up in the Ultraman series. But this movie was slow and boring, and I was not impressed with it at all. Not at all. Um, and, and then after I turned it back into my coworker, he told me that he bought it at the dollar store. So I'm like, oh, so this was a dollar store movie. Okay, because those tend to not be very good. Sometimes they're entertaining, but they tend to not be very good. And this was one of those times. I don't suggest Big Man Japan.